You're watching Reality Check. Unlike 2016, this time it was meant to be a landslide or at least an easy win for Joe Biden in America's election. But again, Donald Trump has made it improbably a cliffhanger. Right now in the race to get to 270, the majority mark in America's electoral college system, Biden is at about 230. So he needs about 40 more. And Trump is at 210. He needs about 60 more. With about 7 closely fought states still counting the votes. That's where we are right now, with about 7 closely fought states still counting votes. This could take days, perhaps weeks. And so let's not try and shred the numbers tonight, but instead try and get our head around how America ended up here. The idea that someone with Donald Trump's record is in the reckoning. All right, joining us tonight, let me just start off with, we're going to have many voices, but let me just start off with Sukhetu Mehta, author most recently of This Land is Our Land, an Immigrant's Manifesto, professor at New York University Journalism School. Khyati Joshi is here with us, advisor, South Asians for Biden. Mrinalini Kumari, co-chair of the group Indian Voices for Trump, is also going to be joining us in just a second. Sukhetu, you look like you haven't slept a wink.
I haven't slept much, it is true. I'm in North Carolina. I was with my neighbors and my brother-in-law, Jay, who just got re-elected to the state senate here. It's been a very long night and quite a frightening night, because earlier it looked like we may have the orange menace for another 4 years. But it looks like that might not happen. It's still a nail biter, but right now it's looking like Biden will still squeak in, but our dreams of holding the US Senate in Democratic, or turning the Senate Democrat, that's not going to happen either. So even if he does become president, it's going to be a castrated presidency. He won't be able to get his agenda through. Right.
Khyati Joshi, advisor, South Asians for Biden. This was, as Sukhetu said, must have been a very harrowing night for the Democrats. What do you think was, where do you think you went wrong in terms of the idea that you were going to have this landslide, and it hasn't turned out that way?
Well, I think actually, and let me just say that along with being on the National Council for South Asians for Biden, I'm a professor of education, and I focus on race and religion in America. So I'm coming at this with both hats on.
Okay.
So I think really, we're talking about a nail biter, we're talking about it close, but actually the story is voter suppression. In the United States, elections are state controlled, the ballot counting and everything. So there's 51 different ways this is happening. And when you're in a Democratic state like New Jersey, I'm coming to you from New Jersey, the counting started a week ago. And when you're in a Republican-controlled legislature like Pennsylvania, the counting of the ballots started yesterday.
Right.
And what we're seeing on the ground is overwhelming evidence that Democrats vote early and Republicans voted the day of. So we have to watch the numbers.
Okay.
But that's, it's about voter suppression. It's not necessarily just about being a nail biter.
Okay, I'm sure Mrinalini Kumari would love to counter all of that. But before that, let me just go across to Gloria Steinem we have on the show tonight. Really needs no introduction, feminist icon, author, activist. Gloria, great to have you on. Are we good? Are you able to hear me, Gloria?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, by the way, because it must be you're on the West Coast, so this is really early for you. But I asked Sukhetu Mehta the same question. Did you even manage a wink of sleep last night?
Barely. I just, maybe 2 hours of sleep, right? I just got up hoping for resolution, but not finding it.
Right. So, Gloria, as I said in my introduction that we won't try to shred the numbers because it's still very tight and it could take some time. It could perhaps take days. But we're all still trying to get our head around how this became so close,
Connection
given
lost.
everything that's happened, Trump's record, all of that. Any thoughts on that?
I would not
talking
have
to me?
predicted this. I thought it was going to be decisive. I think it's partly the problem of having one source of information blasted, and also fear, you know, that he has, our so-called president has used fear as a weapon. But I do believe that in the end, Biden will have won.
Okay, it does seem to be inching towards that, though it's perhaps premature to get into the numbers. But looking back, would you say that there was anything the Democrats did that perhaps was, perhaps mistake is too strong, but they would need to go back and relook at what perhaps led to this very, very close kind of situation?
Well, I think perhaps they were way too subtle and too traditional, rather than pointing out what really has been going on in terms of using fear, lying about the nature of our epidemic here, and what its source. You know, in a way, a single source beats multiple sources.
Right.
And Trump has had for a long time a single source and not an honest source. So, you know, he has so generated fear and racism. I mean, I think one of the problems that our own commentators are not talking about so far is the racism of this vote.
Okay. Strong words. Mrinalini Kumari, co-chair of the group Indian Voices to Trump. There's quite a lot there that's been said, but let me just start off by asking you about how Donald Trump seems to be reacting to all of this. He's already declared victory. He's threatened to move the Supreme Court. Isn't that shocking?
Yes, well, he said he would declare victory even before this.
Right.
You know, I mean, he's always declaring victory.
Okay,
right?
Gloria.
No matter what. But,
Right. Let me take that to Mrinalini Kumari. Yes, Mrinalini, go ahead.
Yes, he's saying he would do all this if there's a reason to do any of it. If he feels there's any voter tampering, which is not that it can't be. Just in New York, they found out like 2 people who were dead, their votes were sent in. And everybody knows about that. So this whole misconception that voter tampering or mail-in ballots are all completely legit is so inaccurate. And when I'm hearing all these conversations, I just feel that all these people have so missed the point.
Okay.
They've just completely missed the point. The Democrats are in this state. It just shows that this is what the Americans want. This is what the American people want. Let's not talk about so much about racism.
Okay. Kathy, just a second. Let her finish. Yes, please.
It really is about the economy. And so all this conversation that's going on, and Donald Trump is not a racist. If anybody is a racist, it's Biden. It's not Donald Trump. So let's get our facts correct.
Okay.
There's nothing racist about Donald Trump. Have you heard comments that Biden has made about Indians? I'm not quite sure if you guys even have heard about those comments. So let's get our facts correct first and foremost.
Okay.
And hence Trump will.
Okay. You know, if we get into Trump's record of racism and racially charged comments, we could be here all night. So let's not go there just yet. But Suketu,
missing the bigger picture.
Okay, just a second.
I was talking to a Pakistani taxi driver yesterday.
Let me come back to you. Suketu, the point is that the initial data shows that
Trump just keep sitting and badgering Trump. Get your facts correct first and foremost.
Okay, Mrinalini, just a second. Suketu, Trump is up by almost 3 million votes in the popular vote since 2016, and this has been all votes not counted. Explain what is going on in America, because all of us around the world are watching this and, as I said, still trying to figure this out. that you've had this record, the mishandling of the pandemic, the economy, all of that, and yet you also have this.
And despite that.
Okay, so Ketu.
Right. Well, first of all, it's another massive failure of the polling industry, because we were all, we read Nate Silver and we read Upshot, and we looked at the polls and the various needles and sabers and lances and whatever you had, and they were all pointing towards some of them towards a Biden landslide. That didn't happen. So clearly, there's been a kind of misreading in the very machinery of polling in the country. And it seems what happened is there was a late surge.
Yes.
Trump got his voters out. The man did 4 rallies a day, and he used fear, particularly demographic fear. Here in North Carolina, there were people, whites, particularly rural whites, who he frightened with his talk of rampaging mobs in the cities and law and order. And a lot of them who didn't like his handling of the pandemic responded to his message of law and order. So he's got that, and it's also, there's a kind of demographic fear in the country of white Americans losing the country, and his promise now, as it was in 2016, is to make America white again, and people are responding to that.
Yes.
Gloria,
yes.
you spoke of the fear as well, but would that alone, would fear-mongering alone explain the fact that he's managed to make it so close? Or do you think there are other factors at play? Again, I just want to get a sense from how you look at these results, or whatever we know so far, in terms of what's going on with America.
Well, I do think the flow of information is part of the problem. And as I was saying, a single source of information often beats multiple sources of information. And he has succeeded in taking over as a single source of information. But in terms of his racism, I would remind everyone that he and his father were legally convicted by the Justice Department of racial discrimination in their housing. I mean, he has a long track record of racism.
Yes,
right.
He does.
But Khyati Joshi, something which hasn't really been addressed in all this is, you say that there's voter suppression, others on the panel say there's fear, but is there also a question mark over the choice of Biden as a candidate? He was believed to be someone who is perhaps more acceptable than Hillary, some would say, but at the same time, did he really manage to put up the kind of fight that you needed to take on someone like Trump? Is that something which the Democratic Party would go back and say, was he the right guy for the job?
Listen, he won the Democratic nomination fair and square. He was the Democratic candidate. I think what you have to understand is we are seeing the highest voter turnout in 120 years in this country. So the votes are there. We have to look at what's getting counted. The fear, he held daily press conferences spouting misinformation, and the major networks covered it. So there's a lot of culpability and responsibility out there that needs to be discussed. And really, what he has done very well is stoke the fear of white America, that it is going to become a brown and black America, and you don't want that. He has actually done what has been done before in this country.
But shouldn't you guys be countering that? Even if he is stoking fear.
The Biden administration, the Biden campaign has countered that. It's been putting out policies, but when you're president, you're given a podium in a way that candidates aren't always, and he manipulates. What did he say last night? He said the voting should stop.
Right.
People believe, election day is over, the voting should stop. Let me say, by the way, if you go with the numbers right now, and if we followed the president's lead that the voting should stop, Biden would win.
Okay.
He's at 227 electoral votes.
Right. Mrinalini, isn't there a risk here that when you try to subvert or raise questions about the electoral process, this is, you might do it for immediate short-term gains, but you could seriously end up damaging, the whole democratic architecture, the institution that makes these elections so unique?
What is really interesting is when you speak to a Republican who's voting, right? For them, race inequality is not what the main thing about this election is. It's about economy. In the end, there is no racial inequality in America as people are making it out to be. There is some amount of racial inequality for sure, but not to the effect as to what these people are saying. Ma'am, let me speak and let me finish, please. Relax. So it's not to the extent that what people are making it out to be. I've been here for 30 years. Honestly speaking, I have never seen any.
Okay,
it's about a country where people you work hard, you get rewarded well enough.
Okay.
Let me finish.
I'd like
I
to
said,
just
if you
explain
work
why
hard,
that could be.
you get
I'm not discounting.
The Democrats
I'm not
are all
discounting your
about
experience.
giving them money from the cradle to the grave. Socialism doesn't work. This is a capitalist country, and that's what works about it. And that's why people are there for President Trump.
Okay, we have very little time.
2016, it's back all over again.
Okay.
What didn't they realize about racism, that the Cuban Americans went and voted for President Trump? Despite the comments that they think that President Trump has made about them and all the racism aspects.
Okay, sure.
Why did he win Florida?
Okay,
why did he win Texas?
Oh, hold on. Let me just get Gloria. Yeah, I want to quickly we're very short on time. Can I just get Gloria to respond to that, Gloria? Because some of the exit polls are indicating that Trump actually seems to have gained. Mrinalini, just a second. That Trump seems to have actually gained with minorities, with Hispanics, and even actually with black men and women over 2016.
Exactly.
Gloria.
I think the gain is with Hispanic, but not with Black Americans.
That's what you think.
If you look at the numbers.
Don't take a Black American vote for granted.
Okay, just a second. Sorry. Let's keep it civil. Yes, sorry, Gloria. Go ahead.
No, I think the gain is with Hispanic, especially Cuban Americans in Florida, but not overall and not with Black Americans. And he has a long, long record of racism.
Right.
And can I just explain something? I'm not trying to discount Mrinalini's experience of never encountering racism. But I think when you look at, for example, the Indian American population, which, by the way, in some of the swing states right now could be the margin of victory, particularly Georgia. But what you have to understand is that the immigrant generation, and whether we're talking Indians or we were talking people coming 100 years ago, don't often see racism. But those who have grown up in the United States, who's gone through K through 12 education in this country, who go through college and university, have a different outlook. And so while there are Indian Americans who have been supporting Trump, I suspect, and this is with my scholarly hat on, not my activist hat on, I suspect overwhelmingly they are of the immigrant generation.
Okay.
And immigrants don't talk about race and racism. They think that is antithetical to being successful in America.
Okay, we actually have an Indian American who's supporting Trump as well. In addition to Mrinalini, this is Shalabh Kumar, who's the founder of the Republican Hindu Coalition, is with us. Shalabh Kumar, in the event that Trump loses, will he accept the result?
Of course he will. And Srinivasan, good to see you after a long time. And
likewise.
If you remember, this is very different. 2020 is very different. You were standing with me in front of Trump Tower in 2016, and I told you 300 to 306, and we got 306. Here is my projection right now. If somebody could see it.
We can see it. We can see it now. But
okay,
let me come back. Mr. Kumar.
Biden 268.
Okay, Mr. Kumar, we can see your projection, but about you seem so confident that Trump is going to accept the result, but look at everything both that he's been saying in the run up to this and what he said last night. He said that he's literally called for the stopping of counting. He said he's going to go to the Supreme Court. And his campaign has been sending, by the way, because I'm on their mailing list, alarmist mail after mail saying the Democrats are going to steal the election, blah, blah, blah. These are not good signs.
Nothing is going to happen. I mean, you know better than that. President Trump, okay? Through our interaction, actually, you hold the distinction of the first foreign journalist to interview candidate Trump in the world. You know him.
Sir, I would not go as far as saying I know him. I barely spent 5 minutes with him. You probably know him better. So you're saying that all this talk of trying to put the voting on hold and the counting on hold is all bluster. This is all bluster?
No, nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. You should hear how Mike Pence, what his speech was. So nothing is going to happen. It is, again, a very, very, very tight. Right now, it's probably going to be the closest election ever in the history of the United States. Either 270, 270, 268, 271, 267.
Right.
Where, in our history, you've never seen that before.
Okay, I just want to get a quick last. I don't know how much time I have. Let me just try and let me try and get a quick last comment from as many people on the panel as I can, starting with Gloria. Gloria, if, and it's still a big if, and you don't want to conceive of it, but if it's Trump 2.0, what happens to America and the world?
A very, very sad result. Those of us who live in New York City, where Trump came from and where we know Trump, voted 96% against him. And he has created a government really based on bluster and sheer volume of media and fear. So I devoutly hope that he does not win. It would be a disaster for this country.
Right.
And I think the world can see what his leadership has been for other countries as well.
So, Ketu, in a sentence, if I may.
Yeah, what this election shows, no matter who wins, is that the American electoral system is broken. The fact that a minority of the country exercises dominion over the majority, and if Trump wins, that a minority will be in control of the presidency and the Senate and the Supreme Court.
Right.
It's utterly shameful. The Constitution needs to be revised.
Okay.
It's got to be one person, one vote.
Okay. Shalabh Kumar, you're shaking your head. In a line, Shalabh Kumar, what will a Trump re-election mean in one line? Disaster or amazing?
Same policies as the last 4 years.
Okay. Well, God, if that's
great
what
economy.
Okay.
Great support for India. Great fight against terrorism.
Okay.
And stand up to China. So, all that's going to be there. And by the way, I do want to make a comment.
Very quickly, we're out of time.
A minute. I don't agree. Our electoral system set up by our founders, smartest founders ever.
Okay.
They chose it for a reason, so that you don't have populations like New York.
We're out of time.
California.
We're out of time. Mr. Kumar, we're out of time.
All right. Thanks.
Can I just comment about the Electoral College?
Gloria, very quickly.
The Electoral College was wanted only by the slaveholding states. It's been a mistake from the beginning.
Okay.
We should have one person, one vote.
It has been.
All right. Okay, we'll have to leave it there. You've all been great. Thank you so much for joining me on Reality Check. Thanks so much for watching. That's all the time we have. Good night.